Hey, and welcome back to Agile Driven Impact, the playbook for change makers. I'm Diane Leonard, and with me is my co-host, Eric Leonard.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to the Sunroom. We're so excited to be in the same space with you today as we are talking about stakeholders.
Yes, stakeholders.
Stakeholders as it relates to specifically Agile teams, right?
Well, any type of team, I think.
Okay,
Any team has
fair.
stakeholders.
We don't care if they call themselves
Yeah,
Agile or not.
every team has stakeholders, I think. Usually,
Fair.
they're doing something for someone,
Okay, fair. Teams,
agile or not.
all shapes, all sizes, all teams have some sort of stakeholder.
Yeah,
Okay, but that's a really big, broad word.
yeah, it is.
So how do we want to break that down for folks today?
Well, I usually break it down into four different types. So,
Four different types.
four.
Okay.
Yeah. Start with the most important stakeholder usually, which is the users, the customers, the clients, the people that use the product, service, whatever you're providing. Those types of people. That's one.
Okay. I think we should let's talk about what the four are and then maybe
Yeah.
think about
Yeah.
examples.
So you've got the customers, clients, stakeholders, or customers, clients, users, that type of person. Then typically, if you're working on something as a team, you have funding. Someone's providing people, someone's providing tools, resources. So these are the people we might call sponsors.
Or in my space, funders, grant makers, donors. I
Sure.
love this type
In
of
my
stakeholder.
space, vice presidents, board members,
Yeah,
people
okay.
like this.
So that one's number two.
Yep.
Okay.
Third type of stakeholder is the consultants that you need help from. Like they could be subject matter experts. They're the people that have a significant amount of expertise in something the team is working on, but they're not on the team. There's someone who the team goes to as advice, or maybe the team's working on something a little different than they normally work on, so they need to go to some expert outside the team.
Okay, but hold on, wait. Remember me, I run a consulting business. We don't mean like they have to be external paid consultants,
No,
right?
but they could be.
Okay,
They
so
could
I
be.
could be a stakeholder, but I don't have to be a
Well, yeah,
stakeholder.
you could be. You don't have to be.
Okay, fair. Just want to make sure. Okay, so subject matter experts, friends of the team,
Those type of things.
consultants,
Yep.
type number three.
Yep,
Great. Okay.
exactly. And then the fourth type is a partner stakeholder. So somebody, in this case, stakeholder, in this case, is usually someone either on your team. So a partner could be someone in your team. They're a stakeholder of the team too, even though they're on the team. Or it's another team that you work with. But partners are people who are partners. They're delivering with you. So they're actually helping you work on the product or the service or whatever you're working on. They're there working with you.
So could be collaborative partners, could be subcontractors, maybe some volunteers.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. Okay, so four types of stakeholders: users, customers, clients, sponsors, funders, supporters, subject matter experts, consultants, and partners.
Yeah.
Okay. Do they all have equal weight? What are we seeing with teams? I wonder if what you see for teams having like
Yeah.
pressure from one versus the other. Uh, what's your experience? Like, is one more important for us to spend time on?
I don't know if it's more important that you spend more time with any of them, but they all have different needs, like
Hmm.
different desires, needs, things that they need the team to deliver for them, or or things that the team needs from them.
No, that's fair. I'm thinking right about way about the sponsors. When I think about in the nonprofit sector, which stakeholder is driving lots of action, it often comes down to the funders. Which grant makers have said yes, which major donors are supporting you, and that's driving a lot of the work that's being done or what's being prioritized. I can think of nonprofits, big, small, medium, doesn't matter which mission area, and that stakeholder seems to have more weight in their world than any of the others. Right or wrong, that's what's driving the ship for them.
Yeah,
A little different in the for-profit sector?
it can be, but the sponsors typically want to know that their money is being spent well. So they want to know, what am I getting from you? What's coming at me? Um, So in our world, a sponsor typically would be someone who cares about the project and what the project's going to deliver, and then typically is looking at what are the ways that I can tell that this thing is working or not, right?
And you know what's funny? is that we have a stakeholder who
He,
joined us
yeah,
in the
this is our
podcast.
stakeholder
This is
here,
our stakeholder right
little
here.
stakeholder.
Our little stakeholder, Ollie, has decided that being part of a podcast would be
Yeah,
like the coolest thing
yeah,
ever.
he's a
He's a
stakeholder.
stakeholder. He says, I want to be a part of the
What type of
conversation.
stakeholder would he be?
Oh, um,
What do you think?
I feel like he, just his tail, I feel like he would be the sort of stakeholder that is having a lot to say as a subject matter expert. Subject matter expert in terms of what sort of food should we serve?
Maybe
What
that
sort
could
of
be it.
day are we having?
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, that's a good time. So little interruption with our
it's
stakeholder, but
fine.
there's always stakeholders that are
Well, yeah, it's so
interrupting your
yeah,
day,
let's use
right?
this. Let's use this to. So I'll give you one example of a team and a stakeholder, and where interacting with a stakeholder can and cannot be beneficial. This goes back a few years during an agile transformation at a large manufacturing company, and a sponsor stakeholder was showing up at the team's daily scrum. So in Scrum, we have daily scrums, they're 15-minute things, and he was showing up just like Ali is. And instead of following the rules of the daily scrum, of the team is the one that's collaborating, the team's the one talking about the work and planning the next 24 hours, he showed up and he wanted a status report and he wanted to know where the product was and how far it'd come along and all that type of stuff. So this is a good example of why in many agile frameworks like Scrum, you have these different events, and the events are pointed at different stakeholders. So, who are the stakeholders who should be in the daily Scrum, right? The daily Scrum is a planning meeting for short-term work. Typically, the only stakeholders that are going to be there are your partners. Okay, your partners show up. They might talk about the work that they're going to deliver, the work that you're going to deliver, partners being on the team or partners being a team you're working with. But if a sponsor starts showing up at your daily Scrum, that's a problem because they interrupt it, they make it run long, they sidetrack it because they don't know the plan. So stakeholders from the sponsorship perspective should be showing up at what event, right? A sprint review in Scrum, which is where you bring your product and you say, this is the product. Are you happy about the product, right?
Yeah, product, the service, the thing
The
you're
serve,
working
the
on.
thing.
Yeah, the thing. So, you know what this makes me think of is, well, we are constantly talking about agile values, and this makes me think about the agile value of customer collaboration over contract negotiation.
Right.
We're trying to think about what is best for each of our stakeholders and whether we're thinking, I mean, we talked about four kinds, right? Customer was one of those four. We talk
Hmm.
about stakeholders, but that's the value that just popped to mind for me because you're thinking about how to best interact with the sponsor, the vice president, the grant maker,
Sure.
so that they understand what's happening, they feel engaged, they're willing to continue supporting whatever's happening, but you're also delivering what they expect of you.
Right. Right. And I think that if we speak about this customer collaboration piece, it's customer collaboration at the right times
Hmm.
and using the process that you have, whatever that process is, to get those people to interact with you at the right times. And the right time is not once a year. That's way too long, but it's also potentially not every day. Now, you could have a customer that's actually part of the team. And if they understand how the team works and they're working directly with the team, that's okay. But you have to get that collaborative agreement first, not a contract, but a working agreement, something that's flexible, but tells each person involved, each individual involved, what type of interaction they're going to have with the team. And for customers, that becomes really important. In some of my work, we can't involve the customers very often because there's competing customers. And so if you bring in the competitors at the same time in front of the team, that's not usually a good situation either.
Well, and as we're talking about this, and the word customer keeps coming across both of our lips, and the thing that happens in my space when we've got different charities and nonprofits that are talking about stakeholders, and we keep using the word customer, that doesn't sit well. It doesn't feel familiar. It doesn't feel comfortable.
Hmm.
Not that it's wrong, but nonprofits are like, wait, is that us? And so I want to return to just the way that you had helped describe that first type of stakeholder. Every time we're saying customer, that's a big blanket for users, clients, patients, community members, right? The
Yeah, it's more the
people who,
it's the person who gets in this case, the person who gets the direct value of the thing you're providing,
yeah.
right? A sponsor doesn't get the direct value. They get secondary value because the thing they're trying to deliver either is why they have a job or gives them a bonus or satisfies their clients, their customers, but it's a secondary. So sponsors are sort of a secondary receiver of your services. The user, customers, clients, they're the primary receiver. They're the one who's going to use the thing, engage in the thing, work with the thing, be a benefiter of the thing.
Right. And I think understanding how different it looks in teams for how they might define the different types of stakeholders and when they might engage and interact with them, right? It's going to look different for the teams you work with in industry versus what I might see in a healthcare setting or in, say, a food pantry setting. Or, my goodness, we have examples at Agile and nonprofits of summer camps that
Mhm.
are working in Agile teams, right? Those are really different,
Right.
like their individual, what they might put on the wall of pictures for people that they think about of stakeholders are really different, but they still all, I think you would agree, come back to that agile value. Whether you call them a customer or not, that's not the important label, but it's really about that stakeholder collaboration over your agreement
Yeah.
document and how you
Right.
negotiate and get through it together. Does that seem fair?
Yeah. And I think that regardless of, as you said, it's different. Uh, but there's a lot that's the same. And I think the thing that we can help people walk away from this with is some tools, some actionable things that they can do. And when you look across these four different stakeholder groups that we mentioned today, I think you can use some certain practices that can help here. One of the things that we like to use is sort of your how engaged someone is in how much interest they have in your product service, in what your team is doing. How interested are they? How engaged are they versus how much influence they can have on whether or not it's successful. So, for example, someone can be very interested in what you're doing, but have almost zero influence on whether or not it's a success. Right. So if you take a influence versus interest, you might find someone who's super interested but has zero influence, right? It's one user out of a million, right? Then you might have some people who have very little interest but huge influence, right? They're the person who funds the organization, but this thing you're working on is not something that they particularly themselves get any benefit or care that much about. And then you can have anybody across the spectrum, and that's true in any industry. So how you work with those people is also a truism that you can have. So if you have someone who's really interested in it, but has very little influence, then how do you engage that person? What is the right way to engage that person? So if they're spending some time, they're always asking you questions, they're always doing these sort of things, they have a ton of interest. So you want to keep them interested, but you also don't need to spend that much time with them because they're not that influential. So you have to bucket your time with those people, not spend a lot of time with them. The people you really want to spend a lot of time with are the people who have high influence and low interest. You have to engage with those people, help them see what value you're providing, why it's important, who those stakeholders are, and really monitor and work with those people a lot.
Well, and so as you're thinking about what that call to action is for folks, what is it that they can try? What is it that they should be thinking about? Here we are talking about stakeholders today and what their interaction is and influences on a team. And the immediate thing that that comes back to, and I know it's just one of our types of stakeholders, but when we think about in the nonprofit space, different grant makers or major donors, what you just said about influence versus interest, they've got lots of influence, varying levels of interest, but they also have all their own personal preferences and capacity limits in terms of how they can learn, where do they want to learn, how do they want to learn. And so to me, I think that like our call to action for folks today is to list out your different stakeholders
Yeah.
and think about all the folks that fit into the four buckets we've talked
Yep.
about. And then to make some notes for yourself. Who feels influential? Who
Mhm.
feels really interested? Who feels like they're both? Maybe you even make a little bit of a graph, sort
Yeah.
of like you
No, I
started
would
to lay
recommend a
out.
graph. I would recommend a graph, putting those names on a graph. Not a graph really like a engineering graph, but a whiteboard
A
of
plot.
sorts, a plot. Top right, top left, move some stickies around, um, and then assess your relationships with each of those people. Because we get into this bias that many people have. Well, I'm going to talk to the people that are most similar to me or agree with me the most. No, you really want to go for your critics, go for the people that are going to give you the most challenging feedback, the most difficult stakeholders are the ones that probably you need to spend the time with. So look at that map that you've created once you've created it, all the different names, and start to rank who do you have the least strong relationship with, and go after those people if they're in the right spot. High influence, probably want to talk to those people if they're high influence and you haven't been working with them a lot.
Mm. And I always get nervous if like we're giving people huge homework assignments
Yeah.
or things to do. So I'm like, all right, so challenge one, do a little plot, laying out your stakeholders. And then once you've got that done and you've thought about it, maybe talked with some of your colleagues, pick one, right? Don't you
Yep.
think, let's
Yeah.
pick one stakeholder
Yeah.
and say, in this next 2 week period, I'm going to try and engage with them in a slightly different way. And then maybe the next 2 weeks, you take on somebody else. You're not going to be able to reach all of them, right? And
Yeah.
talk to all of them right away or change your relationship or ask them for feedback in a different way. But having the plot gives you a starting point to think about who's most important
Yeah.
for me to try next. What
Yeah.
do you think about that? Good
Yeah.
challenge?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good challenge. And let's bring that challenge back to the four different types because I think
Hmm.
if you take on that challenge, you can pause this, go map all your stuff out if you want, and then come back and say, okay, if it's someone who is in the user customer clients thing, what should you do with them? You should show them the product or service that you have as it exists today, right? Show them it, talk it through, say, what would you do differently? How would you want this to work? Right? So that's for that type of person. If it's a sponsor, you go to them and you show the progress you've made, the impact you've already had, how much work it's taken or not taken to get to that level of impact, and the challenges or impediments that you have today, right? If the person that you haven't worked with much is a subject matter expert, go to them with a humble mind in a humble persona and say, look, you're an expert. I really need your help. Here's what I know and here's what I don't know. Can you share with me what you know? And lastly, hopefully your partners you're close enough with and you got a good relationship, but if you don't, help them see how you and them are a team, that you need to work together to provide the value to those users, customers, or clients. So it's different depending on the different type of stakeholder, how you go back.
Here's my one piece of advice on the partner one. Actually, any of them. If you're going to them and you're really nervous about it, morning coffee, tea, food. Food's a nice icebreaker. If you're ever stressed about it, food works.
Bring them candy.
Yeah. Our earlier stakeholder that you met, Ali, agrees always. Food. Food's going to be
Food's
the
going to be the
food's going to be
winner.
the winner every time. Or in my case, anything that's warm, hot, a little bit of caffeine. Well, all right. So everybody's got their challenge, and I think it's time to say, hey, thanks for being with us on the journey. And until next time, keep driving that impact. This podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Agile and Nonprofits, a team that's dedicated to helping mission-driven organizations create greater impacts faster. Agile and Nonprofits provides training, coaching, and consulting to support nonprofit organizations' agile transformations. You can learn more at agileandnonprofits.com.
Yeah.